Welcome back, everyone, to Talking God and Politics with Mark, Mike, and Denise. We were joking about after the last episode to changing the title to Talking God, Politics, and Israel and the Rothschilds.
Yeah.
But and we will talk about that again tonight a little bit. So
Oh, yeah.
that's in the news. No one wants World War III, and so we're obviously going to keep talking about that. So, Mark, how you doing?
Good. How are you guys?
We're doing great.
Doing good.
Another good week. I think we had kind of a nothing burger on the Epstein thing, but we'll get into it. There was a reason, and so far I'm seeing some honesty, and I'm feeling good about this administration. At least there's some honesty there. So I like to see honesty, even if I don't agree with you. If you're honest, that's okay.
Right.
Yeah, we'll find out. We'll find out soon. So we thought we would start off. I came across this clip. Matt Gaetz, he's being interviewed, and he basically, you tell me, audience, he basically is saying Israel was responsible for killing Epstein. All right, so let's lead with this. I can pull that up. There we go.
But I don't think it was domestic inspired to take.
Why is the world's foremost pederast protected? This makes no sense. Like this is like evil, right? Like everyone agrees on it. It's like you got a 99
on Epstein. Bill Barr is the one that needs to be called in to give sworn testimony on what happened there at Bureau of Prisons, because that is not that. There's just no way that the story you're getting is the real story there. No freaking way, and Bill Barr knows it.
Most people believe that, right? Like it's like no way that that's.
I actually think it was I actually think that on Epstein, it was a foreign government that took him out. I don't think it was a domestic enterprise.
Really?
I do. I'm not going to say which one.
He's not going to say which one.
I wonder why. Inspired to take out him. I think that was a foreign operation, government sponsored.
So foreign operation took out Epstein inside of our prison.
Yes.
So they must have been allowed to.
Oh, I think it was in concert with people in our government.
Wow.
But not at like some, low level guard getting bribed kind of way.
Yeah.
At a state to state level.
Hmm.
So that's probably a lot of party interests in keeping that under wraps.
You better believe it. Weapon systems at play, global deals at play.
Interesting. You have evidence to back that up?
I just am positing it as a theory.
Wow. What about UFOs?
Wow.
So when was this done? I've seen this this background before, maybe, and I thought it was with Gaetz and somebody else. But was that clip done recently, like yesterday or sometime this past week?
So no, and I'm wondering if Matt saying and positing those kinds of theories, to use his words, is maybe what got him kicked off of being AG.
That's exactly where I was going.
Instead.
Yep.
No, I think that this was done a while ago. Yeah.
Yeah. I remember the interview. I thought someone else was in the room, but maybe they were, and he just cut it to there. But yes, I think that's exactly why he didn't get it.
That's horrible, because he's got the information, right? And wow, that's so sad. So sad.
And maybe he doesn't have all the information, but he's been in those circles long enough.
Oh,
that he knows. He just,
he does
he said, it's my theory.
He has to say that. Yeah,
you're right. And he knows exactly who it is.
Mm-hmm. And it does make you wonder what Pam Bondi's role in Florida at the time was in the prosecution of Epstein down there, and the sweet plea deal that he got down there.
Yeah.
So
Well, and so that's the interesting thing, and I know we'll get into it in a second, but that's part of what Ian Carroll talks about as well.
Mhm.
I honestly think she had to know what was going on and who was bought off and why, and that though she doesn't have all of the evidence, she probably also 100% agrees with Gaetz on, is it Gaetz or Gatz? Anyway,
Well,
that who it was that took out Epstein. Epstein didn't kill himself. I mean, even me, normal Joe Schmo here, saw that right out of the gate.
right.
Which is interesting. This past week of releasing the Epstein phase 1 document or phase 1 binder.
Nothing burger.
The nothing burger.
So what did you guys think of that?
Kind of expecting it. I mean, look at who they invited to the White House to get the binders. They were all freaking Jews, most of them. And it's
Poor Zionists,
Yeah, all that stuff was redacted. We know more from the internet than the information they got from those binders. That's how pathetic that was. And
now,
Pam was on, Mark Levin Sunday, I guess it was, and she was, stressing that she's very upset over this and she expects to get more. Apparently, it's the New York office, the FBI office in New York, that's withholding about 2,000 pages of this. And she's talking a big game. Like she's tough. She's going to go after it. We'll see. We'll see.
So supposedly in the binder it said, and before they went outside, they were told, and she said, "Do not look. I have not received everything. In fact, the letter that I have sent the office in New York telling them they have until Monday or whatever the day was to send everything to me. Don't go out there and say anything.
Right.
Just keep this to yourself." Because the press out there was there for a whole different reason.
Right. Yeah.
And
they were there to cover Keir Starmer, the PM of UK. Yeah.
Exactly. So what's that, DC Drano or whatever that guy is?
Yeah.
He was kind of the first one to make the mistake because she actually told him, do not go out there and say anything about this. Because basically, like you said, it was a nothing burger. Let's not make a big deal of it right now. I didn't get everything. Okay.
Show us your clip on Ian Carroll, because he kind of gets right down to it.
Yeah, he does. He gets into that. So let's. All right. So what I'd like to do is just go through different clips, and we may get through it all. We may not. If not, that's fine. We'll carry it over next time. I think this right here, what he did, what was it, Friday night, he went live at 5:00, and I think he messed up and he didn't turn his audio on. So he did a long thing until they told him his audio wasn't on. But anyway, I think he did a perfect job of the bigger question, because, and we'll see, we know, like the three of us, a lot of people that have been following this for a while, we know who did it, why it happened. And he approaches that the same way. He says, we already know this isn't some big reveal of who it actually is. This is more about, okay, we all know, but what happens when your government actually says, okay, this is what it is? What happens next?
Right.
And anyway, we'll get into it. And I'm going to jump around a lot. And I also want to say for anybody watching that there's going to be language. He doesn't hold his language, so there will be some language. And like I said, I'm going to jump around on these clips because It's an hour and 22 minutes.
Mm-hmm.
So I tried to pull out just interesting things that he said, and I ended up with about 20 to 22 different things. I almost was like, all right, forget it. We just got to watch the whole thing, and I'll just pause and we'll comment. But so yeah, they'll jump around. But I do want to pause, get you, and obviously we're going to comment. But yeah, we'll just watch it, and hopefully the people that watch us will get something out of it, because I think out of everybody, he nailed this thing.
I agree. I thought it was very good.
Yeah. All right, let's go. I'm going to jump first to, there's 2 disclaimers he does in the beginning. I'm not going to do the opener. We'll jump to 3 minutes in.
I've got actually
within those
from 2:40 to 5 minutes is what I found is the key. But
is the disclaimer that he gives?
Well, no, just the best material was 2 minutes, 40 seconds to 5 minutes. So if you just want to back it up, instead of starting at 3, start at 2:40.
That I am. I'm speaking about individuals. And in the same vein, when I'm speaking about the Mossad or the CIA or the FBI, what I'm speaking about is usually certain factions within those groups, splintered organizations that have walled themselves off on the other side of many degrees, usually, of classification and top secret clearances, so that things can be compartmentalized. Because the way that covert intelligence agencies have always worked is to compartmentalize projects and information and scandals so that one side of the operation does not know what the other side is doing, so that when this side gets exposed, that side doesn't know. And so that if you come looking and you find a sex trafficking operation, it's extremely hard to tie it back to who it came from. And so in general, we're going to try to be very relatively specific with our language, but in general, I am not generalizing. I'm speaking specifically about who I'm speaking about and about pieces of groups and certain elements within groups.
And I think that's a good point, because first of all, it's not all of the CIA. Secondly, it's not all of the Israeli government and any other faction that they talk about. Though maybe when he talks about the cartel, I'd probably say, yeah, they're probably all, But so yes, that's a good point. And that's basically what he's doing here, is he's specifying that it's not all of it. It's not generalizing all of them.
Not about entire groups all at once. There's our disclaimer. I'm sure it won't help. The other disclaimer that is important to repeat, that is obviously not going to help also, but this show, this discussion is intended to be taken in whole, not in small slices. And it's an extremely nuanced and complicated discussion, and it needs a full run through. It needs enough time to speak carefully and intentionally about all the little pieces. And so when people inevitably try to clip small segments out of this to paint it as something that it's not, all of you who have seen the whole recording will know that those people are fucking idiots. And this is me calling them out because they are engaging in propaganda. And at best, it's because they're ignorant and dumb and pushing an agenda. And at worst, it's because they're working for someone on behalf of an intelligence agency or on behalf of an agenda or on behalf of something that wants to muddy the conversation.
Which, by the way, if anybody follows him on X, you can see he gets clipped all the time, and it's ridiculous.
Yeah.
And I think we can all imagine who might want to do such things and why they might want to do such things.
Whoop. What the heck just happened?
Real. And top secret clearances, so that things can be compartmentalized. Because the way that covert intelligence agency...
Yeah, you need
Where were we? There we go.
You need to go past that.
Slices. And it's an extremely nuanced and complicated discussion. And it needs a full run through. It needs enough time to speak carefully and intentionally about all the little pieces. And so when people inevitably try to clip small segments out of this to paint it as something that it's not, all of you who have seen the whole recording will know that those people are fucking idiots. And this is me calling them out because they are engaging in propaganda. And at best, it's because they're ignorant and dumb and pushing an agenda. And at worst, it's because they're working for someone on behalf of an intelligence agency or on behalf of an agenda or on behalf of something that wants to muddy the conversation.
Mm-hmm.
All right. So, and I'm going to jump to 6 minute unless you got something in between from here at 4.
No, your
6.
clip is different than mine, so my time markers aren't going to be the same as yours. So you go ahead and do what you're.
Oh, got it. Okay. So I wanted to jump up here to 6.
That Epstein was loyal to America first and he was working for America on behalf of America, you'd have to present me with some damn good evidence to convince me of that, because the body of evidence is overwhelming for what was really going on. In fact, it's worth mentioning that this Epstein list idea, this idea that we need a release of documents to figure out who his clients were and what he was doing, that's bullshit. We already know. It's already been exposed over a decade of research by people like Whitney Webb writing One Nation Under Blackmail, which you can and should read probably a couple of times. People like Ryan Dawson, people like Alex Jones. There are countless people over the years that have talked about Epstein, that have researched Epstein, that have exposed his crimes and the list and all of the above. What we're actually looking for in these documents is maybe there is some new information. Maybe there's some tidbits that we didn't know in advance. And maybe it will confirm certain things that we already suspected. But we're also looking for what is left out of the documents. What are they censoring that we know is true already, but they are trying to obfuscate? There's a lot of things that we might get from this release of the list, but a list is probably not what it's going to be. It's going to be a bunch of documents, a bunch of videos, a bunch of stuff that some of it we don't even want them to release. Like videos, we don't want those. Okay. Those should not go on the internet because they are literally adults raping children. And that's so fucked. We do probably want some confirmation that what they're telling us is on those files, but we sure as hell don't want to see them without a serious amount of censorship.
So he makes the case, like I said earlier, that we already know what's going to be there. Now I'm going to jump to what his next thing is so, okay, if it's not about, there's going to be names on there. It's not really about who's on the list, but it's more around how do these people that are going to release this and the people that have been behind, this whole Israeli agenda, this Jewish agenda, where do they go from here? Like Ben Shapiro, he's going to call up, and he pulls up. It's kind of funny because he's going to pull up a panel of just still images, and he's going to talk through each one. But I think it's good because now he's getting to the heart of the question.
What exactly this panel was all about, which I find kind of hilarious. So let me bring up our panel. Oh, and let me fix our background real quick. So our panel is just a smattering of mostly media personalities, the kinds of people that we might hope and expect even to answer this question, both for themselves personally and for the public. This is by no means everyone that should answer this question, but this is a good smattering of people to get us thinking about what exactly is going on here. Okay? So let's start with a very simple version of the question. Ben Shapiro, our boy Ben. I'll pose this question directly to you, Ben. Let's get right up here with Ben. Ben, suppose you had a button, Ben, and that button, when you pressed it, it would cause China to have a catastrophe. Maybe they get invaded by their neighbors. Maybe they go through civil unrest and revolts. But it causes the government of China to collapse eventually, and it causes a certain amount of strife and struggle and sadness for China, and it's a tragedy for China, right? But if you don't press that button, then that exact fate will befall America, and America will be invaded and taken over and ruled by an enemy, and bad things will happen to America in equal proportion. Would you press that button, Ben, to save your country, America, from strife and revolt and occupation and problems? Or would you choose to press the button to save your country, America, but instead, unfortunately, China has to deal with that fate? Would you press that button? I would posit that the definition of America first is that you would press that button. You have to make a choice. It's going to happen one way or the other way, Ben. You have to make a choice. And China or America, what are you going to pick?
I think he does a good job, and he's going to go to Charlie Kirk next. I think he does a great job of showing how it's about, are you putting the country you were born in, the country that you grew up in, making money in, and that you supposedly have allegiance to, who are you going to put first? And I guess he picked China. I don't know why he picked China with Ben Shapiro. Or
he's just, it's a hypothetical. He doesn't want to say Israel right off the bat because
no, I got it. But if you know, when we'll see, he picks Iran for Charlie Kirk. And I don't know if it's because in the past they've kind of attacked those countries. But yes, no, exactly. He's making that point, but he's using the country that they attack. You know what I mean?
Charlie, same question to you. It's either Iran or America. If you don't press the button, serious strife is going to befall America. Americans will not be sovereign. They'll be taken over by a foreign nation. But if you do press the button, then Iran receives the same fate. But America is saved, and America will prosper instead. If you had to choose between Iran prospering and America suffering, or America prospering and Iran suffering, Charlie, would you push that button? I would hope, since you throw an event called AmFest, America Fest, and you profess to be America first, I would hope that that is a very simple answer. That you would put America's interests first over Iran.
Okay, so now I'm going to jump to about 14. He's going to pose the same question again.
That these fine folks were given were a giant nothing burger. Right now.
So what he's basically, what we talked about is that they were given the binder by Patel, or I mean, I'm sorry,
Bondi,
and that it was nothing.
Mm-hmm.
Kash Patel and Pam Bondi are faced with this exact question.
Yeah, this is,
and it is not an exaggeration. Okay. Right now, our government, members of our government, are being given this button.
Mm-hmm.
And the button says, if you had to choose between exposing the world's largest child sex trafficking ring in known history that directly targeted the United States of America and elicited compromising blackmail material on many of our top government officials, as well as untold numbers of other powerful people in our nation on behalf of a foreign nation,
Mm-hmm.
would you push the button and expose those truths? Because if you do push that button, do you know what's going to happen? Pushing that button will expose what was really happening with Jeffrey Epstein. And what was really happening with Jeffrey Epstein is that he worked for Mossad and for Israel.
Mm-hmm.
And we can go into that a little bit in a moment here. We're not going to try to prove the whole point. That's a whole other show. And I have done that show before, several times. But let's think it through. Because if you push the button and actually release the real Epstein files, what does that do to Israel's relationship with America? How could you possibly claim that Israel is our greatest ally if it is exposed in the public square that not only did they target us with espionage straight up to the president of the United States?
So hang on, sorry. So Bondi and Patel have said that Israel's our greatest ally, but yet they're going to turn around and release, if everything goes as it should, they're going to release material that is going to expose Israel as exactly the opposite. Now, either it's been a huge psyop and they've played the game and now they're like turning it, or this is going to remain a nothing burger.
Yeah, there's really no other option.
Mm-hmm.
And, LBJ had Kennedy assassinated, not by himself, but by the help of Mossad. And in this case, I'm thinking it's just theological ignorant. Like, I don't see Pam Bondi or Kash Patel as LBJ. LBJ was crooked. He was being investigated by Kennedy.
Right.
I mean, he was a horrible person.
Yes.
All right, horrible person. But Pam Bondi, now Kash doesn't. Kash, what is he, a Buddhist or something?
Yeah, I believe so.
So he's not a Zionist, but I think Pam is. And there are a lot of them like that. And that's the question. Will they, for theological reasons, not want to embarrass our greatest ally? That was LBJ's line. That was his way of getting around what he did. Or will they do the right thing that they campaigned on, they promised, and let the chips fall where they may? Now, you listen to Trump talking to Zelensky, and he says, you don't have the cards. You don't have the cards. So, again, we don't know where Trump is on all this. We don't know if he's just a theological buffoon and he's just being played, or if he does know more about Israel and he's kind of getting some cards now, and he's eventually going to play them as leverage to stop World War III, because these idiots obviously want it. So we're still kind of in limbo, but those really are the only options, and it'll be interesting to see what Pam does with it.
So my thoughts, number one, Julian Assange was right.
Mm-hmm.
If all of this comes out, it will implicate 90 to 95% of all of DC.
Yeah.
100%. Both houses, all the way up through the government, all the way up through your ABC alphabet agencies, everyone. And you know this because if you go back to Herbert Hoover, which Ian Carroll covers, that is essentially how the FBI and Mossad became so interconnected, was because of the dirt that they had on Hoover, because he was a transvestite pedophile,
Cross-dresser.
So, that's how blackmail happens. But I want to read this really quickly.
Okay.
Because I like Brian Gaetz, and he's an independent journalist. And he's been right on about 95% of everything he's predicted, even if it has taken 4 to 5 years for it to finally manifest itself. This may be the one thing that he's completely wrong about. This may be part of that 5%, but I wanted to read it just to let you know an independent journalist perspective. Okay. Mm-hmm. He says a lot of people on here are still thinking way too small when it comes to the Epstein child sex trafficking scandal. This is an international, worldwide scandal that is definitely not limited to just the United States. What the public is about to discover is that about 20 countries are involved in this scandal, and it involves people across the broad spectrum of each of these countries: political, royal family members, actors, directors, museums, writers, academics, scientists, CEOs, and more from almost 24 countries. To prosecute such a worldwide scandal, a truly international task force was created beginning in 2018. The investigations are now in the 7th year, and they have decided that the time has arrived to begin making the international investigation public, since things have reached a stage where doing so will not compromise any of the going on cases being pursued in any of these countries involved. People who insisted to you that nothing was happening were, as usual, wrong. We'll see. It gives me hope, but we'll
Right.
see.
Well, and that's exactly what Ian is talking about here, is that it is so much bigger than just releasing a list.
Yes. It is world. It is massive.
It touches the cartel. It touches like all these criminal organizations around the world. All right, I'm going to jump to about 19 minutes. These files, if true, what will it do?
I want to speak directly to these two. There's actually a third there, which is a whole other rabbit hole that we're not going to go into tonight.
All right, do you know what he's talking about here?
Yes, he's talking about Kash Patel's fiance, and I think her ties to Mossad. I think there's a speculation that she is tied to Mossad. Yeah.
But Kash Patel and Pam Bondi, if the Jeffrey Epstein files directly implicate Israel as the primary operator of this blackmail ring, would you press that button? Because Israel was the prime operator, not the only operator, but the prime operator. And we'll talk about that in a second. We'll explain some reasoning there. But as you get these files and look at them and discover that that is the truth, you're going to be faced with this exact question. Would you press that button knowing that it will have irrevocable implications for the entire future of Israel? By extension, the entire future of the Jewish people. Would you press that button and release those files? That's the...
Okay, so tying them together, I'm going to jump to about 22. I guess we could have let it play, but we're going to save about 2 minutes here.
Middle East. I don't know what country, but he was working for a foreign country in the Middle East. Really, Dan?
So yeah, this I kind of cut that off. I wasn't going to go there because we talked about it last week. But as Dan Bongino,
Dan knows.
Dan's
being deceptive as well.
Really?
Yes, exactly.
You don't know
Deceptive.
what country in the Middle East Jeffrey Epstein was working for? Let's pull up our Epstein notes and just do a little thinking. We have a Zionist Jewish billionaire paired with the ex-prime minister of Israel, a Zionist Jewish millionaire, paired with the daughter of one of the most infamous Mossad spies in history, who is also a Zionist Jewish millionaire before he was mysteriously killed, bankrolled by one of the world's richest and most prominent Zionist
millionaires. That's the ringleader right there.
And by Zionist, I don't just mean saying that they support Israel. I mean that Leslie...
Yeah, when we talk about the deep state or things, who's driving certain things that are going on in the world, in this case, there's one of them right there.
Mm-hmm.
Wexner has devoted his entire life to giving millions and millions and millions of dollars to organizations specifically designed to promote Israel's interests around the world. Organizations specifically designed to creating propaganda tours for people that visit Israel. Organizations specifically designed to bringing Jewish Zionist billionaires together from around the world to further Israel's interests. I mean, spending millions of his own dollars operating a global child sex trafficking ring on behalf of his buddy Jeffrey Epstein, targeting mostly American officials, as well as a few British, a few around the world, for sure. But as far as I'm aware, they weren't targeting Benjamin Netanyahu. And so to the commenter earlier that said maybe Jeffrey was actually working for the CIA, and actually Israel is the canard, and it's actually backwards.
No, please.
I would not expect to see the trafficking ring targeting the president of the United States and not the prime minister of Israel if that were the case. And let's be real.
Okay, so yeah, that clip, that's basically what I wanted to, he had some, some people have floated the question, it's CIA and all that. And he just made the point that it's not, but there is the guy. You want to get to the bottom of certain of this and how the deep state has influenced it. There it is.
Wexner's the guy. He gave Epstein multi-million-dollar mansions for $1. And we actually have a video of a gal that was in that network, and she was testifying how he would boast, oh yeah, Wexner gave me this mansion for $1 and he gave me this for $1. And we make copies of everything and it goes to him. That's the guy that's in charge of all this stuff. Wow. He's got, not only does he have the list, he has all the videos.
And you think about who Lex Wexner is, right?
Yeah, Mike Jones just asked who.
Who? Okay, so he was the founder and the owner of Victoria's Secret, but I think he also owned Hollister and Abercrombie and Fitch. So he had access to all of these people, all of these young people.
That's insane.
In his fashion world that he then trafficked out and forced them to do this just to make a name for themselves in the fashion industry. Years and years and years of doing this.
All right, I'm going to jump
just like Hefner and the CIA worked through the whole Playboy thing. This guy had all these young models, very young, that they were able to sex traffic.
Yeah. When I found that out, man, I made that connection. I was like, wow.
Yeah.
All right, we're going to jump to 30 minutes. It's about 30 minutes, 15, but we'll just start about right there.
Illegally shuffling funds around to lobby our government in illicit ways, that starts to be a little bit different. That starts to become a problem. And to be clear, I'm not claiming that the Jewish Future Promise is illegal or doing anything untowards. It's just an example of a pattern that when you actually look into how our world is structured, how the Jewish faith is structured, it's a piece of that puzzle, and it starts to help you to understand the Jewish question. And I don't mean the Jewish question like, are you J-pilled? We'll talk about that in a minute. I mean the Jewish question in terms of Jewish people is Jewish people. Question for you. Do you support Israel? That's the first part. Because not all Jewish people do. And the more you think about the question of should we have ever founded Israel? Should Israel exist? And I'm not saying that you should kill all the Jews there. That's not what I'm saying. I'm saying the more you think about the question of is it on balance better for global Judaism or worse for global Judaism to have the state of Israel exist? That is not as simple of a question as you might think. Okay? Because let's dissect this a little bit. And it should be obvious by now why this needs to be a long form conversation, because this is extremely complicated.
It is.
If the state of Israel does not exist, if it was never founded, if Jewish people never created a homeland and this colonization project and made that state, then Jewish people would currently be living all around the world as they have for millennia, and that might be the wrong word, for thousands of years,
couple thousand,
integrated into other societies, probably still partially sectioned off into their own communities because Jewish people like to, associate with other Jewish people, just like every other group likes to associate with their own group. Totally fine. And they would be integrated into other countries. And in those countries, there would be no question of, are you more loyal to the Jewish country over there or to us?
All right. And that was basically that's the point. I'm going to jump. He does talk about
hang on a second. I'm going to stop it right there. That's really not the question. The question for the last 2,000 years before 1948 has been, and why they've been exterminated from 109 countries is your loyalty to us or to the Talmud? Because modern Israel really isn't the issue. Modern Israel is an extension of what the Talmud teaches. The Talmud teaches that they are to rule the world from literal Jerusalem. But until then, they are to be at war wherever they go, just like Islam teaches and the Quran teaches. So he's a little bit backwards on that. But.
So he doesn't understand that, but he touches on it towards the end after about an hour or 10 into it. He doesn't touch on the Talmud or anything like that, but
he's a little Israelite. I'm going to call him Israelite.
He begins to, and hopefully we'll get into it tonight. If not, we'll carry it over for next week. But he does see it because he says, well, if you think you're God's chosen people, you're never going to have peace, and us goyim over here. So he understands. We'll get into it, but he understands a little bit. But he touches on Ben, and he doesn't go into it. I think, and I did want to get you guys' comment on this as well. So we'll
back with Ben, and let's sit down and talk to Ben directly on this one. Ben, good to see you, bro.
Come on, Ben.
Missed your face. Ben, here's what I'm trying to say. It is not our job to answer this question for Ben. It's Ben's job to answer this question for himself. The only instance in which it would ever be appropriate for someone to answer this question for someone else is when there is explicit evidence of a crime and you let a court answer the question for them under due process of the law. If there has been subversion or treason or espionage or something like that, okay? But it is not in any way acceptable for you, because you don't like Jewish people or you suspect Jewish people or you whatever it is not acceptable for you to try to pretend like you know someone's allegiance is better than themselves, okay? That is how you lead to some really horrific shit really fast, okay? And even people that have been overtly Zionist in the past, when they actually think this question through, they might realize that realistically, like, yes, you might love and support Israel and support their right to exist and support the people of that Jewish homeland. But when it comes down to it, you might value truth and reconciliation in this matter more than Israel.
No,
no. And that is another point is, Ben Shapiro, I don't know if he's a journalist or just a talking head or whatever, but I know, that's part of the other people on this list, their mantra. I mean, especially Tucker Carlson. You hear his podcast. That's what he starts out with. I'm a purveyor of truth. Definitely not Ben Shapiro. But all right, so I'm going to jump to 37. And this is where, they have said that the new alt media will be invited into the White House and will be part of the press core now, which I think is good. And he touches on this, that these people are they're really normal people that are about to undertake something that is so much bigger that what are they going to do?
Right.
That rule, like Jean-Luc Brunel, to my knowledge, he was not a Jewish person. But you get what I'm saying. If you tried to cut out all the instances of Jewish and Zionist and Israeli influence in that operation, you would have no operation to expose.
Mm-hmm.
Okay? And so that brings us to the binders and to our friends in the new alt media that just so happened to pretty much all be Zionists and or Jewish. Not all of them. Not all of them. And I'm not saying that because they are Zionist or Jewish that they're not going to do the right thing. I'm not saying that I don't believe them or believe in them, okay? I do disagree with their stance on Israel, but I still see their humanity and I respect their journalism. I respect them as people, right? I have nothing but love for people until I see them with my own eyes do something evil, okay? And when it comes to someone like Jack Posobiec, I have not seen him do anything I particularly didn't like. I'm not super familiar with his journalism. And when I search his page for Israel, I actually think that despite, I think the consensus is that he is pro-Israel. And I think he took his honeymoon in Israel. But when you search his page, he's actually reporting on what looks like, at least a bit of both sides of the issue. It seems to be more balanced than a lot of people. Credit to you, Jack. That's sick. Okay. And I'm not trying to target, I'm not trying to out anyone. These are just the people that got the binders, right? And DC Drano is a good example. Huge account, very popular dude. I'm not super familiar with his reporting, but I do believe that he is Jewish and he is very pro-Israel. And he visited Israel and made videos about it. When you search his page for his perspectives on Israel, he is very pro-Israel. The same is certainly true of Chaya, who runs Libs of TikTok, who actually reposts Israeli propaganda frequently. Cernovich, who I believe is Jewish, I don't know. It's not super relevant. It's just it's just the bigger picture of this is a question that we all need to answer for ourselves. And these people need to answer it for themselves is, would you press that button and release the real unredacted full Epstein files if they implicated the shit out of Israel?
Right.
Okay. And Cernovich appears to be friends with Dershowitz. I'm not sure what this means. It's important not to jump to conclusions when you just see a photo of two people side by side. Okay. So
Dershowitz.
I'm not saying pile onto Cernovich for
which, by the way, Hannity has had him on multiple times, which I think is so ridiculous.
Oh, well, Hannity's a Zionist.
Well, I know, but it just so undercut. I can't stand Hannity, and even after the interview of him, of Trump and Musk, but oh man, yeah.
I know, but the number of times that Dershowitz's name shows up on the flight log.
Oh yeah, he defended him.
He was his defense
lawyer. And to Ian's credit, he says that, Yeah.
And he claims he got massages there, but he says, but I had my underwear on. I mean, give me a break. Dershowitz is a scumbag.
I didn't know that. Scumbag. Yeah. All right, I'm going to jump to 4220. And this is where they talk about, this is where he touches on, they didn't know what they were getting into, that that basically they didn't get everything. Shut your mouth, go outside, don't talk to the press, and I'll get back to you. Uh, 4220. All right, sorry here.
This
we'll go through a little bit of this,
but now that they are deciding to step into the arena of this story, and to be fair, maybe they don't want to be in the story. They didn't ask to be, and they didn't know they were going to be handed these binders. Realistically, they got thrown under the bus here. And maybe they don't want to be a part of exposing this story. But if you do want to be a part of exposing this story, all you guys, you're going to need to ask yourself this question: would you press that button? Because behind that button is Israel. Okay? But let's clear up some stuff. To the best of my understanding at this point, based upon the reporting that happened, based upon the things that have come out, they did not know that they were going to be getting binders of files or anything like that. This meeting that they had was scheduled months in advance. And it was a meeting that was designed to welcome the new media into the fold, right? And so they showed up, and Pam Bondi, the timing is such that the Epstein file release is happening. And I don't know who thought of it. And I don't think we understand what the real purpose was, because there's a lot we don't know. But for whatever reason, they were given these binders that were largely nothing burgers. But in the binders that were nothing burgers, Pam Bondi included a letter in the binder. And it was the letter that is now publicly. Oh, that's a video of Tucker. Let me bring it up. This is the letter now, infamous, from Pam Bondi to Kash Patel, saying that y'all have been withholding shit from me. The FDNY is hiding thousands of documents. They only gave me 200 pages. WTF, get your shit together and have your documents on my desk by what is now this morning. Already passed. Okay. That letter, to the best of my understanding, and I'm pretty sure I'm right on this, was inside the binders when she gave it to these influencers. And what that means is that Pam Bondi was not presenting this binder to them. And this is also what they have said in their own testimony. She was not presenting it as though this exposes it all. This is the whole thing. This is everything. That's not what it was being said. What was being said was, we had this plan and we were going to give you these binders, and we're getting fucked by the FBI right now. And I'm super pissed. But like, let's get the ball rolling. Here's what we know. Here's what we do have. And here's our commitment to get more. Right? If you take it at face value, that seems to be what actually happened in that room. And then they were asked not to do any media or to show any photos or to do anything until 3 p.m. that day.
I was going to stop it there. I'm going to let this play because it is interesting. He talks about how the DC Drano guy screws up. I think it's good.
Then
Liz Wheeler.
they walked out of the.
Say again.
So does Liz Wheeler. I mean, they're
Yes,
all out
Liz
there
Wheeler,
like
yes.
big smiles on their faces.
Right.
You know, if this is exposing the biggest pedo ring worldwide, why are we dancing about? Like, it put a bad taste. It really did.
Oh, it was. You know, that's a good point. That is a good point. I didn't think about that. Why are you? Now, I thought that was AI generated. Was that them really dancing?
I don't know. They weren't dancing, but they're holding it up.
No, I know they're holding it
You know
up,
what I'm
and
saying?
like, yes, and that
what
is a
you're
good
talking
point.
about, I've seen it. That is AI
Yeah.
generated. Yes.
Okay.
But just the fact that they're celebrating
Yes.
at all.
Right.
Well, I'm gonna play the other side, but since most of these guys are Jewish, I wouldn't go there. But if it were me, and I literally thought I had all the goods on these pedophiles, I would be excited because I'd be like, yeah, finally these bastards are going to jail, right? I mean, I wouldn't be excited about the actual actions. I'd be excited about hopefully justice was finally going to be served. But anyway,
they had to have.
I've got a show on Revelation here in 8 minutes, so.
Oh, okay. Well, then, I wanted to stop. This is where I wanted to stop anyway. We'll pick this up offline. Let's maybe we can work out something this week, and we'll knock this out rather than wait for till next Sunday.
Well, we still have 8 minutes. Let me pull up something here, because I wanted to address this really quick. If I can find it. Yeah, I think this is it. Yes.
Very, very clear that the Jews want to exterminate the European race. Richard Butenholzer Kalergi, who is the father of the European Union and who was funded by the Jewish bankers Rothschild and Warburg. Now, this man wrote a book called Praktischer Idealismus in 1925, in which he stated that the Jews are a master race, and that the Jews can only assume the throne of rule over the world by weakening the European race, and that the means to weakening the European race would be to dissolve all the European nations, destroy all their cultural heritage and their national traditions, and replace that with the European Union, and then to invite in Africans, Middle Easterners, and Asians to dilute the blood of Europeans through miscegenation to the point where they became a degenerate mixed race. And then at that point, these people would no longer have any sense of nationhood, and the ancient Jewish messianic prophecies of world rule out of Jerusalem, with Jews maintaining their nationhood and their national status, it would fulfill the Jewish messianic prophecies that the Jews could then rule the world. And this was completely in line with what Nikolai had written in 1917, and has manifested itself recently with the invasion of immigrants from Africa, from the Middle East, and from Asia into Europe, America, and Australia. And they are deliberately setting about to genocide the white race and destroy all sense of nationhood.
Okay, so
I don't know about genocide the white race, but that is interesting. But how do you get that many leaders within the different European nations to go along with it? Look, it is crazy to me that they've allowed, most of the countries in Europe have allowed this influx of illegals into their country, and they're just like Germany and France, they're just running over the people
Mark,
But how do you get?
I'm gonna have to stop you there for a second. So when Alex Jones, really good, he talks about globalists, general term. The globalists, you can go to the World Economic Forum and look at their website, and they want replacement migration. They want to flood the United States with poor people to do the very thing that that document just said. The problem is that Jones is not telling you who is at the top of the food chain of the globalist, and it's all coming from the damn Talmud and people like BlackRock and Wexner and all these multi-billionaires that are doing this. And that's, I mean, you just have to call a spade a spade.
Yeah. Larry Fink from the CEO of BlackRock, I mean, he considers himself a Jew. But I think that's the whole point of the Epstein. The whole point of blackmail is to create a partnership that is irrevocably, binding, where if you kill one, you kill the other.
Right.
That's the whole point. So, and then I think you also have to go back into the belief system of the Ashkenazi Jews. You have to go back into those people that believe in the 13 bloodlines. I mean, it is so vastly huge. And so many people, like these influencers, they do not have the 40,000 foot view. They have a very narrow, myopic view.
No, that's true. But you're seeing him, and even like Ireland, I think, is one of the best examples of realizing, okay, this was not the smartest thing to do. Is just to open the gates for all these immigrants to come in.
It's a strategy that comes from the Talmud. There's nothing strange about it. There's nothing stupid about it. I'm so sick and tired of listening to Fox News, them portraying the Democrats that have been totally compromised. They are.
Right,
You talk about Epstein. I mean, that whole party is wiped out. Republicans, probably a good portion, but I'm talking Democrats. They have been completely taken over by these guys. So to get back, because we only have a few minutes, let's answer Mr. Carroll's question. Who's going to push the button and who's not and why? I'll tell you right now that the evangelicals have their heads so far up, you know where, in their heresy, they have literally been brainwashed for over 100 years in this heresy. There is nothing modern Israel or what they think a modern Jew could do that's going to get them mad, because they're already killing Christians over there. And Greg Locke's up there dancing and waving a damn Israeli flag. These people are crazy. They are in a cult. There's nothing that you can't do. And that's the problem, Mark. That is the cornerstone to the main problem here, is because they have taken over not only government politicians, but evangelicals. And they have conditioned them that they can do no wrong. And so if they're killing Christians and they're fine with it, do you think them finding out that Israel's involved in sex trafficking children, you think that's going to change their theology? I'll tell you what it'll do. It will confirm for them. They'll start looking for the Antichrist over there.
Right.
And they'll get all excited because out of one side of their mouth, they're supporting Israel and the Jews because they think it's prophetic. And that if you show them that they're evil, they think that goes along with it.
Yeah. No, I can get behind that. You're right. They will just transfer it to, oh, okay, well, now the end times are coming.
This brainwashing, this theological, eschatological brainwashing has to stop. And preterism is the only system out there. And I'm willing to debate Greg Locke. I've challenged him to a debate. I'm willing to debate Charlie Kirk. I'm willing to debate Ben Shapiro. I'm willing to debate Tovia Singer and these guys. But they won't do it. They don't want to debate a preterist because we destroy them. They want to debate the Christians that don't know what soon means, that don't know what this generation means, so they can make them look like a fool and keep playing them.
Correct.
So it's rather frustrating, but we have 1 minute. I wanted to talk about Zelensky. If you noticed in this debacle, Here's the thing that everyone has to pay attention to, and I wish I had the clip for it. But Zelensky, you notice when Trump got pissed, Trump was letting it kind of go, letting Vance do the work until Zelensky said, oh, well, you might just be surprised. I'm paraphrasing. You might just be surprised. You know, I've got some people, you might be faced with a war. Zelensky is a tool of the globalists.
Mhm.
Zelensky has been told not to take the deal by the globalist.
Mhm.
And he's their little bitch. And he's sitting there saying, I don't know, Mr. Trump in America, you guys might have a surprise coming to you. That's when Trump got pissed. And he said, you don't tell, and you could tell he even pushed his
Yeah.
shoulder.
He did.
Oh no, he did the
You
he
don't
did the
tell
old New
me.
York thing, New York Italian. He was like, "You
Yeah.
what?
Yeah, you don't tell us what we
Oh
need to
no,
be
you don't
concerned
come
about.
over here." Oh yeah, he did that.
But the question is, does he realize that Ukraine was Khazaria at one point? Does
Oh
he
yeah,
realize this?
no.
Does he realize that the Ashkenazian Jews came from the Ukraine area?
No.
Does he know this? And does he realize that pushing back on Zelensky and the Epstein file that unrolls the whole ball of yarn? Does he get it? Does he put the two together?
So
And does
it's-
he
No.
consider his family more important? Jared
Yes.
Kushner,
His
And
daughter,
his
who's
daughter.
converted. Yes.
yeah.
you know,
Yeah.
You know, it is interesting because Mike, since he was elected, you've said, I'm still the verdict's out if he's truly. So maybe maybe he's, I'm kind of
trying to
going
get some
with
cards.
Denise here, and I'm thinking maybe he does know what's going. He's playing 4D chess here.
we can only hope.
We hope.
We can only hope. All right. Well, that's gonna close our show, but those are the two main things that are going on right now.
Yeah.
Zelensky
Yeah.
threatening World War III, being a puppet of the globalists, telling us right here now that we're not going to go with it. We're going to try and push World War III. In America, you're going to get sucked into it, and Trump getting pissed off. Oh, no, you're not. That's one issue. And then the other is, well, the issues are connected because it all comes back to Israel, unfortunately, and the Talmud trying to start World War III to bring in.
Yeah, and towards
enslavement.
the end of the Ian video, he doesn't understand what we understand, but he is putting the pieces together, and he touches on that just a little bit. So next episode, we're going to do that.
Amen.
Hey, good to see you guys again.
Good
Yeah,
seeing
good
you
to
guys.
see you.
Thanks
Have a good
everyone
week.
for tuning in.
Yep. Thank you guys. See you.